got some good news. Well, it's good news if you're me, and I guess you advocate what I advocate. It's bad news if you're not, and you're a person that thinks highly of public school education and its indoctrinators. Excuse me, teachers. This is silver lining. This is what I would deem as if people are looking for what they call a white pill, right? There's something they give me something to be like happy about what's happening in the future. I have a good story for you covered by local news in San Francisco. Title: San Francisco, and this is Fox 2. San Francisco school enrollment down by 3,500 students. Whew. You love to see that, bro, don't you? I mean, you want to talk about some good news? That's fucking fantastic. San Francisco school board officials are discussing a new report showing an enrollment drop of 3,500 students in the last 2 years. That's not enough, but it's a starting point. The drop could mean less of state funding to tune of $35 million. Whew! Not only do you love to see the people getting their kids up out of these indoctrination camps, but you also love to see state funding not going to the crackheads. I love to eliminate state funding altogether. That's absolutely fantastic news. I guess this is SFUSD Superintendent Vince Matthews says district needs to adjust to a new normal. Officials had hoped enrollment would return to normal in the fall, but it didn't happen despite efforts to make schools safe for students. We have committed to putting into a place of public health safety. I don't know what they're doing out there. I don't know if they're doing this, so don't quote me on this, but I envision that they're like doing the whole kids in bubbles and shit with markings on the ground where they have to be separated. I believe San Francisco would probably be doing some shit like that. Every campus has been approved by the SF Department of Public Health for reopening. SFUSD already faces a $116 million deficit going into the next school year. An additional $35 million would change the outlook for staffing and spending in addition. Man, I'm talking about, whew, you absolutely, you'd love to see this stuff. So long story short, what's happening is that the enrollment has dropped. Now, the enrollment could have dropped for so many different reasons. People are getting the fuck out of big cities in California, could be part of it. Keep people getting the fuck out of California all together. People seeking more alternatives, be it private schools or co-ops or homeschooling or whatever it is, to get their kids up out of the indoctrination camps. It could be all of those combined. The great news is that it's happening regardless. And you're going to end up with a situation where these quacks who probably, look, this is why a lot of people are afraid of the idea of homeschooling and why they fearmonger all the academics, because you do understand that the academics would be out of jobs. They don't have real jobs. State funded jobs aren't generally real. That's not to say that things that aren't state funded wouldn't exist in a freer society in the event that, they didn't control it. They haven't monopolized something, or they haven't been subsidized by way of taxpayers, so stolen goods. That's not to say it wouldn't exist. It's to say that some aspects of it wouldn't exist, and how it exists now wouldn't be what it exists in the event that, let's say, all of the education system was marketized. And what homeschooling does and what co-op do is it threatens their money, which is why they're so against it. So it says you're hurting the poor people, you're hurting all these other people, but all it is that they're trying to save their own bacon, because a lot of them know the writing's on the wall. If people actually woke up to the idea that not only are there alternatives to public education, there are viable alternatives, even for people that don't have much money. There are viable alternatives to just sitting there dropping your kid off to an indoctrination camp 5 times a week for, 8 hours, however long they're there. Like, there are alternatives to that. And the minute people actually find out about that, they're threatened. They know that. That's why they send those academics out every time. They roll them out and say, well, we can't have that. This is bad. You're hurting the poor people that you give them options for education instead of forcing them to go to some area, to some shit school with shit teachers, because it's the closest to their house. And sometimes that's not even the case. It's just whatever arbitrary lines, that district lines that the state drew. The jig, now I will say this. There's some truth to looking at the whole pandemic, not necessarily when it comes to safety. No, that's not what it is. It's that showed so many parents how corrupt the public education system is. That's what happened. That's what happened out of the pandemic, was that it forced, kids. Now, again, I've been saying this for years, and there have been people before me who have been talking about how rotten public school education system was. But some people need to see it for itself. And as you saw, like teachers unions pimping out these districts and all sorts of other stuff seeming to be prioritized over your child, you saw how much it wasn't about them and their education. It was about more of a protection of a status quo. And it was, I guess, the people that were part of the teachers union seemed to be more valuable, right? Because it wasn't about the children at all. So a lot of people adjusted based upon that. I've seen that so much in Texas. We saw that homeschooling. We're seeing so many, really not just in Texas, all across the world, homeschooling numbers up, homeschooling stunks up, private school stunks up. And this is something that is absolutely fantastic because people are starting to see how rotten that it is. Now, in the perfect world, which I hope we work towards this shit will be abolished, not reformed. No. Any milquetoast ass conservatives that are talking about we need to reform. No, you need to leg sweep them Mortal Kombat style, right in the lower part of the calves. Right, that's what you need to do to those guys. They need to shut up. It ain't about reform. It's about abolition. The public education system is an outdated, rotten system. And what needs to be focused on is not its complete elimination and the complete elimination of the taxpayer dollars, be it through private, like property taxes, of those parents that are being forced to pay for these institutions, these rotten ass institutions. That's what needs to happen. OK, and that would be what happens at a more like if we can get people to realize that. But this is at least starting to get people to see that there are alternatives, even right now, that are very, very viable. And I love to see it. So, get your kids. I know there's going to be some well, it's not that easy. I have a job. What about? OK, look, I also learned this, that a lot of people hate their children. I did learn that throughout the pandemic. Nonetheless, if you want to actually work towards a freer society, a freer culture, you cannot address that without addressing the public education system. And you can help future generations by simply not giving them access to the minds of your children. And so loving to see school enrollment numbers down in really any regards when it comes to like the districts or public school education. So this is good news. This is fantastic news. You just watched a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake. Catch us live at 12 p.m. throughout the week over at youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and follow us over at odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. If you want to watch the entire video cast after the show is over, just be sure to become a member on the YouTube channel. Of course, the full audio portion of the podcast is available for free on all major digital platforms, or just visit forcanonsake.com.